We are coming to you live from our studios here in the Victoria Island, in the city of Lagos. Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life as well. It is 31 minutes past 7 a.m. It's a Monday, people. Yes, a brand new day, 20th day in the month of October 2025. This is a freshly pressed. Welcome into our first foray into what is going on in the newspapers. And we take a look at the headlines, the big stories, we get analysis, of course, and your thoughts and contributions also make it a very, very interesting melting pot of opinions and a rich conversation as well. My name is Ayokunmi. Welcome into the first installment of the show this week. So you need to join us on WhatsApp. You need to join us on YouTube. For those who are just tuning in for the first time, you are most welcome. The WhatsApp number is 0911 999 0981 You can also join us on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. As usual, leave your comments in the chat box there, and I will take your comments and contributions alongside the WhatsApp messages. Apologies if my voice seems a little cracky-ish. Very eventful weekend, so I'm not yet at 100% yet. Not at full fitness, as they say in football terms, but I'm getting there slowly but steadily. Anyways, joining me to take a look at the stories this morning, two very fine gentlemen, one on Zoom, one in the studio, Mr. C, and of course, AB Bozimo. AB, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Let's make this a very rewarding week ahead.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Navy. Good morning, Lagos.
Alrighty, so with the pleasantries neatly put out of the way, let's get into the meat of the matter as well as a little start what we have come to do. That is an edited version of that particular line. Anyways, Mr. C, the Vanguard, the Guardian, I beg your pardon, is where we begin this journey this morning. This story says the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, aka SERA, has called on Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas to provide full details regarding the 18.6 billion naira allegedly missing from the National Assembly Commission Office project. In a letter dated 18th of October 2025, that's 2 days ago, that's Saturday, signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Uluwadari, the organization cited findings from the Auditor General of the Federation's 2022 report, which raised concerns over the award and the execution of the contract. As per the book One Week, One Trouble, we're here again talking about monies that are allegedly missing. Oh, let's see what's going on here.
Thank you, Aya. So, again, this points to another episode, albeit a recurring episode of the impunity that pervades the land. So, there's a report from the Auditor General of the Federation for the financial year, the budget year 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, that is almost 3 years ago. Almost. Now, in that report, the Auditor General could not find 18.6 billion naira, which was allocated for a National Assembly Commission Office project. Now, it's interesting to note that as part of this story, the Auditor General says that repeated attempts to identify a contractor that received payments totaling 11.6 billion have proved unsuccessful. Ladies and gentlemen, not all of us are unintelligent. Not all of us are incapable of processing logic. You made payments, right? Whether you made cash payments or you made digital payments, you paid to at least one individual or a set of individuals.
Right.
You must, for a project of this magnitude, given the sum, you would have paid into an account. For the love of everything good, who is the registered owner of that account? Or who are the registered owners of the series of accounts you paid into? More importantly, and maybe he's an architect, so he's into construction or renovation and the likes. An agreement must have preceded this entire transaction. What name is written inside the contract on the portion with respect to contractor? Since they say they don't know the details of who they pay the money to.
I mean, it can be a ghost.
No. It's very easy to solve. Is it they just decide to come out and consistently insult our collective intelligence? There is a contract for this project. In the contract, who are the parties? What party is responsible for carrying out this construction or renovation work? It's so easy to do. But to come out here and tell us that repeated attempts, that's one way of finding out. Another way is you paid money into bank accounts, a bank account or bank account. Who are the owners of those? Or who are the operators of those accounts? Then we're told 6.9 billion was also paid to convert a rooftop space into a rooftop garden into office space. 6.9 billion.
Must have been very, very executive.
How large is this? First of all, what's the floor area of this roof? What sort of materials? What sort of renovation? So this whole story is just ridiculous, in my opinion. And it's extremely sad that in 2023, no credible answer was provided. In 2024, no credible answer has been provided. 2025 is on its way out. We have barely 10 weeks left for this year, and there's still no credible answer. Serap again doing the Lord's work of calling these people to order, and it's instructive that the leadership of the National Assembly has not seen it fit to respond to this. Now, if these are unanswered questions from the 2022 auditor's report, well, how about the questions from the 2023 report? How about the questions from the 2024 report?
And what questions will we ask about the 2025 report?
Exactly. And sadly, they're not going to respond. I don't see them responding. They would rather prefer Serap goes to court. And this is one of the things holding us back as a nation from developing properly. Where institutions are not run properly, they're not run in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And nobody is going to be called to order. The clerk of the National Assembly, being the chief operating officer of that National Assembly, should be the one answering these questions. And the leaders should ask him to answer the questions.
Right.
But again, will that happen? Fingers crossed.
All right, AB, you have a word to add to this.
This project is all centered around the National Assembly Commission office. It is a public building. Therefore, this is a public project. And therefore, it is, quote unquote, all of our money because we are collective stakeholders in public buildings. The only condition under which you might not know the identity of a person engaged in work is you were in your house, a pipe sprung a leak, you dashed out of your gate, you happened to see a passing plumber. He just had his equipment on his head. You quickly called him in, got him to fix it, you gave him his money and he went. That is an ad hoc project that had no background. For a project of this nature, there's clearly got to be a scope of work, bill of quantities, time frame and everything. And as Mr. C has said, a contract. This is not your average, come and fill up this place with sand and keep it moving. This is a major project. 11 billion plus 7 billion is 18 odd billion naira. That is not beans. The only way you don't know or you're unable to get the person is that let's just presume, on a lighter note, that a company that can receive 11 plus 6.9 billion has no NIN on record. And so the government just paid a company that has no identity, no name, no nothing. No, like Mr. C has said, and in contrast to the next story, which I'll take, there is no interest in getting this identity. In fact, there are people for whom it is critical that this information is not released. And I'll give kudos to the auditors for consistently putting out there that they are looking for the information. Now, they may have other means, but they are choosing not to utilize, because I cannot see how an auditor can say to a bank, give me the identity of the company, and the bank will say no. So there are some people in whose interest this is being quote unquote concealed, but at least they keep bringing it up. And now Serap, unfortunately, has to be the one to go to court. And you and I know that the go to court has been an abused thing, go to court, because it may never be called as a case.
At different points in Nigeria, even till now, we've had ghost workers. Now we have ghost contractors as well. At this point, we
Ghost
just might need to
contracts
bring
and
in
ghost contractors.
at this point, AB, we might need to bring in the Ghostbusters because I do not understand what is
Ghostbusters. I
going
really
on
think so.
anymore in this country. It's always, like I said, 1 week, one trouble. Even Wilson Tagbo, I don't think got into trouble this much for those who actually read that
Certainly not. Certainly not.
All righty, AB, let's get into the world of aviation here. What's stepping into the punch? Where the Nigerian Senate has expressed deep concern over the growing safety lapses in the country's aviation sector, citing a recent incident involving an Air Peace aircraft at the Port Harcourt International Airport. The Punch earlier reported how an Air Peace aircraft on a Sunday morning of July the 13th had a runway excursion after landing at the Port Harcourt International Airport. Following the incident, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, in its preliminary report, indicted the pilots and the co-pilots for taking hard drugs and alcohol as well. Let me just pause there, AB. I don't know if you remember a couple of days ago or thereabouts, Senator from Abia State, Orji's Okalu, former governor of the states, kind of put all Nigerian pilots in the basket by alluding to the fact that, oh, they take hard drugs, this one and that one, and making some, as far as I'm concerned, some very uninformed statements where aircraft are actually concerned. I know, but he made a point. The point about more of an oversight function coming into play here. Well, the NCAA also made a statement, but now the Senate is getting involved in this one. AB, just give us some context into this.
Now, as you said, it was a highly uninformed statement, because it would be akin to somebody saying that all senators have had indictments and have been seen to be within the legal system because of him alone. So let's put that aside. Now, aviation is a personal interest of mine. I dare say, if I was not an architect and if I had better natural eyesight, I would have been a pilot. I loved it so much as a child. My mom, and dad consistently engaged me in many things that made me have access to. But I grew up and learned that, hey, with this kind of eyes I have, I cannot be a commercial pilot. My flight of choice would have been to fly the 747. It was such a beautiful flight. Now, let's start with the pilots. Training of a pilot is so detailed, so technical, so expensive, and so specific that any pilots who are found to indeed have themselves on substances, whether alcohol, whether hard drugs as they're described, should be ashamed of themselves. They have direct personal responsibility for maintaining themselves in a state fit to operate the equipment they operate. That has absolutely no mitigating factor. And I believe because of how structured and strict the safety regime in aviation is, they will get their just desserts. You do not perform as a pilot unless you're at your best. Honestly, there can be no excuses for them, and none are given or tendered here. But in connection with the first story, the headline says Senate to grill NCAA, local airlines on security breaches. Interesting. We've heard so many stories of how people are on the roads, their vehicles are kidnapped, people are kidnapped, their vehicles are stopped. We've heard so many stories of how tippers tip over and fall into potholes bigger than the tipper head. We've heard so many stories of trains, derailing and all that. The Senate never called anybody to grill them. Why is there interest in this case? In fact, in our first story, we heard of how money voted, billions voted for a structure that ideally should be theirs. It's missing for years, and nobody is grilling anybody. But here, because they fly, there is that personal fear of them being involved in something more than an airline excursion. And so that is where like they say in Pidgin, now there they go find them. They are now calling the NCAA. They are calling the local airlines and so on. Let's be clear. Safety in aviation is paramount. I'm not making light of it in that extent, but I am saying it's very interesting the difference in reaction. For
Right.
this case, unlike any other, yes, we do want to understand what happened. You see, aviation is universal in terms of the level of safety. Now, different countries may or may not attain those levels of safety. And so, yes, we must ask the NCAA, what are they doing to comply with worldwide standards? Aviation is literally one of the safest things, considering the number of flights, number of destinations, and distances traveled in terms of safety. But yes, when one thing goes wrong, there's very little often that can be done. So I'm happy to hear that they're trying to find out more about it. And those pilots, if indeed found, like the report suggests, to have violated their conditions of operation, should be punished to the full extent, because it could be any of us. Let's just keep it real. An excursion was the most minimal thing that could have happened. It could have been worse. But let that same Senate show the same energy when it comes to finding out about 17 billion naira in a building that should be directly connected with them. Let them uncover why 3 years going, the auditors have said, we can't find this name, we can't find this name. Let them uncover that too, side by side with finding out why the NCAA, asking the NCAA to go further into this issue. Yes, those pilots should be punished, as we all should when we go against the ethics and morals of our collective work, environments and professions. But Senate, you should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. You should be able to pass a change of national anthem in 24 hours, find out why 17 billion is missing, and ask the NCAA to look into aviation safety. It's not that hard. You people are paid far, far more than you deserve to be able to do such work.
It's not that hard and it's not rocket science. Aniba, I agree with you. Any erring pilots should be dealt with accordingly. You know, generally speaking, no matter how much of an oversight is, but sometimes some things slip under the cracks. But once they are discovered, they should be dealt with decisively. That is the key thing. Barrister
Absolutely.
Danukuda in Igodu says, good morning, crew. Until we adopt the China treatment to corruption, looting of our common patrimony will continue to fester. Michael says, should the president not be moved to ask what happened to the monies? Is this not corruption? What exactly is the definition of corruption? And this is an abysmal shame. Looking forward to more drug lords being set free soon. Well, I don't think anyone has been set free yet. As we all know, that list you are alluding to is under review. So let us take that with a pinch of salt, according to them. So that's why I say let's take up with a pinch of salt at the same time. All right, Mr. C, coming back to you right now. And we talked about this last week. There's, should I say, a bit of clarity, but still not as much as a lot of people actually want. Daily Trust was where we're pitching our tent. The federal government has said mathematics is a compulsory subject for all students sitting for O-level examinations. This was conveyed in a press statement issued by Boriwo Folashade, the spokesperson for the Federal Ministry of Education, on Sunday. Now, earlier on Tuesday, Boriwo had announced that senior secondary school students in arts and humanities would no longer be required to present a credit in mathematics in their senior school certificate examination for tertiary admissions. So now they're saying that mathematics is still compulsory at O level, and the adjustment made affects only admission criteria, not requirement to take those subjects. So doesn't that mean, Mr. C, that any student in arts and humanities, okay, can sit for the examination, but can decide to less than the barest minimum?
Definitely, you're very correct. So I'm surprised this clarification even came up, because I think it was pretty clear. The requirement to sit for the mathematics exam was never removed. What was removed that was the fact that you needed a credit in mathematics along with English to gain admission into any of our tertiary institutions.
Correct.
Sadly, they are proceeding on this wonderful path or course where maths is the requirement of a credit in mathematics is no longer compulsory for people intending to study courses in the arts in our tertiary institutions. Now, like I said last week, this is a really sad development because critical thinking, logical thinking are well founded in mathematics. Am I saying that you can't find them in other subjects? I'm not saying that. You in any subject you have to study for and pass. You need elements of critical thinking, you need logical thinking. Now, if you take away that very strong foundation in maths on the premise that you need to increase the numbers of people who get into tertiary institutions, it's one thing to say you need to increase the numbers. The existing universities on the ground, do they have the amenities, the infrastructure required to absorb the increased number of students you are planning to admit? Because let's not forget, it's in Nigerian public universities, you see weird situations where there's a class and you're seeing over 1,000 people. Some are sitting on the aisle outside the classroom, some are gisting outside, and then some are having their own conversation at the back of the class. And then we're told that that one lecturer who's in the front, literally talking to the first 4 or 5 rows, is adequately and sufficiently imparting knowledge to the entire 1,000 plus group. No. So are we prepared to reap the consequences of this ill-advised policy move? Because down the line, we will start to see the effects. It's bad enough that mathematics is not being taught properly, or is not being imparted properly to the students. It's also bad enough the students are not doing more than enough to pass the subject. But now to remove it completely as a requirement, I I fear that university grades down the line, say in the next 5 to 10 years, will start to see a decline. And then at that point, the same supporters of this policy will start to wonder, where is this coming from? You cannot plant cactus seeds and expect to harvest blueberries and apples. It will not happen.
All right, AB.
Very briefly, I think it was a silly policy. And I'm very happy that the person who announced it was the person called to quote unquote clarify, and she clarified absolutely nothing. Why on earth would I put myself through the rigor of preparing for a subject that I have been told officially is not necessary for whatever it is I want to do? I personally would not do it, because you have to tell me why for me to actually be interested in anything at all. So telling me now that you're clarifying that you must register and sit for it, I would register for it because it is one of the subjects, and I'll come there and I'll play 10-10 or whatever other game mentally I can play for the 90 minutes of the class. I come out with my name at the top of the paper and an absolutely blank sheet, because I have been told by a government that I don't. You see, why was it removed? You say you want to increase numbers. Why do you want to increase the numbers? Is it about numbers or about quality? I repeat, it was one of the most bone-headed policies I have ever heard announced in a government on anywhere on the planet of the surface of planet Earth, and it should be reversed. You should understand math. Nobody said you must get an A1. I did not get an A1 in math, but math is fundamental to understanding life. Your change you collect, yes, that's not deep math. And I did not do ad math. Those who do engineering and code, they do ad math. I admire them. I did not do it. I always have this running argument with my father. I didn't pass additional mathematics in year one, and he taught me, and I managed to pass it in the second year. And I told him, all my life as an architect, I've never used additional mathematics. He says, oh, that's because I'm dumb. Nain Sabi. The point is that you need at least a basic level of math understanding, and you should be encouraged to study and prepare for it for your life, not just to enter university. Not everybody going through secondary school will go to university, but they should know maths. Silly idea.
At the barest minimum, that is what it should be, mathematics and English. Well, if you have a contrary opinion, do share that with us on WhatsApp on 0911-999-0981. AB, I'm staying with you here. Vanguard is where we're heading to. The Nigerian police, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry, AB. Sorry, yeah, the Vanguard is where we're heading to. Yeah, the Nigerian police has warned intending protesters agitating for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu against any form of protest around the Aso Rock and its environs. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, CSP Benjamin Hundeyin in Abuja, said the warning followed an order of the Federal High Court in Abuja. Because of time, maybe I'll let you dive into this one. Give us a bit of context.
One sentence. I think it's unfortunate how the High Court has allowed itself to be part of those who are constraining the space for free, and I must stress, peaceful protests. Listen, there's an ongoing case. I cannot understand why Nnamdi Kanu's case has been going adjourned and adjourned and adjourned. By now, I'm not sure that the issues, and Mr. C would update me and educate me, are the issues that hard to resolve. But every day, every year, we keep hearing about how it's being what's the word, adjourned right from Buhari's time. Now, Showore has said he wants to protest and all that, and a few other people. And the court said you can't go to Aso Rock, you can't go to Igokwe. So where should they go to? One outskirts in whatever the back of Beyond to go and protest. The point is that the court is maintaining what they call the presidential bubble, or the bubble around those in power. You can't go to the National Assembly, you can't go to Aso Rock, can't go. Why not? What is so special about those people or those places that they should not be aware of the protest? So you just want them to disappear, basically, from the surface. And then, of course, the police, this is where they are jumping and happily saying that. And what does environs mean, really? If you know Abuja, to get from certain place to certain place, you must pass other places. So suddenly, you are more or less removing most of Abuja, because the police can just define environs anyhow they want and say that from you to get from point A to point B, you are going to be in the environs of. So you now need to go to Dawaki or wherever, Lugbe, and go and protest. Not that Lugbe is not a bad place to protest, though, but what makes it so important to avoid protest at some of the places that are provided by public funds? Aso Rock is a collective property. Whether one person occupies it or not, it is maintained, run, and all that, including their solar panels, because they don't trust their own electricity, by Nigerian public funds. So I personally completely disagree with the notion that certain places should be out of bounds of protest. However, I insist that whatever protest should go on should only be done with peaceful means. And so I would argue that the protesters should go to court and strike down that ruling. It makes no sense. A protest is a protest. As long as it's peaceful, it should be allowed. Peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. I said it 3 times.
Okay, so let me just strip this in. I'm aware that the police went to the courts last week via an ex parte motion asking for an order restraining the protesters from congregating. I am also aware that that application was refused, and the police lawyers were told to put the protesters on notice. So I'm curious as to know what order is Mr. Hundeyin referring to, and which of the Federal High Court judges issued that order. Because we're only aware of one court that they tried to visit, and it was on Friday they approached that court. But he's referring to an order purportedly issued 3 days earlier. How is it that they couldn't even publish the order they're relying on, assuming they got the order?
I didn't even know this.
And then, for all intents and purposes, an order is only effective when it comes to the notice of the party against whom it is binding. So another question for the Nigeria police. This order purportedly procured on the 17th of October. Has it been served on the protesters?
That's a very valid question to ask. All right, let me take your messages. Well, man, time has absolutely flown by this morning. This is a message from Leko in Lagos, who says, good morning, crew. When the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse or misuse is inevitable. Congratulations to the president, who has always set a bad precedent. He's releasing drug peddlers, murderers, kidnappers, bandits, and Boko Haram people saying they have repented. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Leko. This is Tayo Najak, who says, police that didn't want to follow court order on cartons are now saying there's court order against protest. I actually was going to mention this because the same exact thing is what the police said, that, oh, they were not served with the order, so they could not suspend. Tayo, thank you for actually bringing it up. You just went into my
But now they suspended it because
now,
they're in talks with the leadership of the NBA.
He said, our former police PRO is now aligning with interest from the center. This is Tony Marine Beach, who says, it's really sad that these people are hell-bent on doing more harm to our already falling academic standards while they award study abroad, pursuing this terrible policy. Tomorrow, we'll end up having persons coming out of such systems to head INEC, and that also means there's no end in sight to having supposed professors as governors who cannot simply read figures in their budgets. Nigeria, we hail thee. Michael Akinremi says, I want to believe that the universities will upgrade their entry requirements as well. They should be concerned with quality rather than quantity too. Why were they not carried along as well? Why are they silent? Questions, and more questions. Ajayi Olomilua in Magodo Jerry Sherry. Good morning. Ayo and the two fine gentlemen in the house. That clarification from the Ministry of Education about getting a credit in mathematics as requirements for admission for art students is still confusing, as sitting for the subject is not the same as having a credit in it. There's still need for further clarification. I think it's rather clear. You will sit for the subject. It's like saying that for one to study a science subject, you need English, math, physics, chemistry, biology. You don't need literature in English. You can decide to not actually pass it. It's not going to have any bearing on your admission to whatever science course you're doing. That is similar to what is happening in the situation here. This is Demola and Surulere, who says, good morning, Smith family. Demola, good morning to you. One of the major problems of Nigeria is our judicial system. Ineffectiveness and corruption has plagued the system. Since the so-called shakers and movers in this country know clearly that there is no punitive measure for any wrongdoing, this kind of thing will continue to happen. It's not rocket science getting to the root of this matter. If they want to get to the root, I think they will. Fabian Inekwe says, good morning, everyone. As the song goes, they don't really care about us. As the Senate focuses on aviation safety, they should also look into road safety. True story. On a daily basis, there are accidents along the Lekki Expressway involving petrol tankers and articulated vehicles. This has resulted in disruption of smooth traffic flow and damage to the roads. This needs to be urgently looked into to prevent a repeat of what happened at the Apapa axis. Joseph Meunier in Silver Estate says, morning to the crew, comrades. Honestly, it's really fair and not irritating what we Nigerians have to stomach each day about the financial recklessness, unaccountability, and corruption in government circles. They use billions to renovate the VP Lodge Conference Center in Abuja, National Assembly, and so on. The economy is dwindling, inflation is dealing with common citizens, yet deafening silence and nonchalance to doing anything but continue in flamboyant lifestyle. May God help us. And Ayofedada says, excuse me, Ayofedada says, mathematics is very fundamental. For me, it's the SI unit of basic intelligence. This is Tajuddin Abdul Hadi, who says, good morning, Ayokunmi, Mr. C, and Sir AB. AB, so you're a white pap from a crystal clear pot. I envy you. Keep it up, sir. Goodness gracious. All right, we need to call it a morning. Thank you all so much for the messages. You are very much appreciated. Thank you to you, AB and Mr. C, for joining me this morning to start our week on a banger.
Thank you. It's a pleasure joining you for the show, as always. And I wish all our listeners and everyone they're connected with an absolutely superlative week ahead. As we have, like Mr. C said, 10 odd weeks to the end of the year. Let's go out in the best style possible.
Thank you, Ayos. Thank you, AB. Thank you to all our wonderful listeners. And I forgot one of our most active listeners today is her birthday. Happy birthday, OA. And let's go out and make wonderful things. Let's do good things this week. Let's rejoice in our wins. And let's be kind and civil to each other. Take care.
Yes, indeed. And talking about birthdays, I need to throw this in. Today is the birthday of one of our own, Yesterday is her birthday, and for all the Smooth fam, you know her, you love her as well. She's a good friend, and of course, a great voice on the radio. Oluwaseun, happy birthday to you. I know that you are probably getting yourself ready for work and all that, but don't worry, the party, don't worry, it's going to happen, most definitely. Anyways, we need to go. Thank you all so much once again. Keep you tuned to the Smooth Breakfast, and of course, 8:15. It's all about sports in the locker room. For those of Manchester Red persuasion, you know what it's all about. We need you there. Banter averted. We thank the Lord. See you at 8:15.